You know what's more fun than a Mini? A family of them. Say hello to the new MINI JCW family, which we'll be driving today here in Gamuda Cove. So we're starting off the day in the Mini Cooper 3-door JCW. Now this car is an internal combustion model, although it can be had for about 100,000 ringgit less as an electric model. But instead the B48 2-litre in here has been mildly reworked in order to make it even more engaging than ever before. Now this car offers a little bit over 200 horsepower and about 380 Newton meters of torque. The gearbox has also been reworked in order to provide a slightly more engaging driving experience, and if you ask me, even in that short 200-meter burst, I can tell that this is a car that's definitely made for drivers. Being sat here, the steering wheel is nice and chunky and it is very adjustable indeed. I've got paddle shifters behind it in order to control the dual clutch automatic gearbox. Everything feels nice and heavy, but more importantly, this car feels very reactive indeed, which is exactly what you want from a car like this. Now, as we set off, we're heading to a track where I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about the dynamics of this car. But just in this little bit here, if I push the throttle down, oh, it takes off with such ferocity, it is insane. And as you slow down, you can hear all the pops and bangs happening behind me. And it does really feel like a proper racing sporty Mini, which is exactly what you want. Whoa. Okay, maybe a bit too peppy, so let's put that back in drive. Now, the wonderful thing about a Mini is that it always offers a very go-kart-like driving experience, and so the Mini JCW is meant to kind of bring that to an even higher, a more heightened experience. And I can say that even just this little bit on the open road does sort of show that off a little bit. But now we're going to be turning into a track. Now this track has been specially designed in order to show off the Mini and what it's best at, and so we'll have a really fun go around here. This has been specially designed just for us, and it will be open to the public over the weekend, which means that if you want to get your Mini on, you can come down here and check out the entire Mini JCW lineup and feel, or rather get a feel for these cars yourself. So now we're on a track, and this track has been designed to show off the Mini's best angle. Now, because it was a bit wet this morning, there is a slight lack of traction, but there is plenty of fun to be had here. This gearbox is incredibly responsive, and chucking this thing around, this car feels absolutely at home. Even through tighter sections here, while the car is spinning on its axis, I can still control and rein it in without any issue whatsoever. It feels incredibly approachable, even though this car is incredibly powerful. Wow, this section is so tight. This is such a fantastic way to show off the Mini driving ability. Even though this car is relatively small, this track is also incredibly tight, and the instructors here have set up a track that is perfect to show off this car's ability in a tight, controlled section. Whoa, this is so much fun. I love the fact that even though this is a new generation Mini, and of course with every generation Mini, it gets a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, a little bit heavier as a result of current demands by consumers, this Mini JCW still puts the fun in every situation. It just feels so planted, so joyous, so fun to drive. And the throttle response is absolutely fantastic. It really does feel like a go-kart. Whoa. Even when you try to overcook it, the car reins everything back in really well. At no point, even as I'm trying to drive this like a ham-fisted oaf, does this car actually feel like a handful. There we go. Okay, I can find the limits if I want to, but it's this is so much fun. This is what a Mini is about. It's about the joyous driving experience. It's about this car is fantastic. I'm only using, I think, a couple of gears here because honestly, this track is so tight and so technical that there's not really a lot of space to gather too much speed. Instead, this is very much a track that is about handling dynamics, and you can really feel just how dynamically capable these cars are. Oh, this is great. So I can say now with a degree of confidence that the new generation Mini JCW is just as fun as any JCW that's come before it. And I don't think that by growing up, this car has matured too much at all. You can't. This is great. Oh, it feels like I'm driving by telepathy. The car is pivoting from where my waist is. It feels so connected, so dynamically capable. I'm having so much fun doing this. And unfortunately, Izzat, our ever loyal and capable videographer, is outside filming this. I certainly hope he has a go at this because this is so much fun. Oh, this is lovely. Yes! So now we are in the MINI JCW Electric. So this is the first 3-door JCW Electric Mini that's ever been made, and that's a pretty important factor because it does mean that MINI and BMW Group are confident that this will keep up as a JCW car. We've already driven the 2-litre with the B48 and we already saw just how good that car is to drive. So now it remains to be seen if this car can cut the mustard. So of course, this electric model does have slightly different motivation from the petrol-powered car, obviously. But more importantly, the electric JCW will offer slightly more instantaneous torque, and therefore it should be a little bit more reactive to drive. Or at least that's what we're hoping for. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap in order to better understand this car. Ooh! Oh, it's got lots of funky noises. I quite like that. Now, the pedals in this car are actually different from that of the combustion car. Of course, these run a slightly different platform, and so that doesn't surprise me that much. But the way it delivers its power doesn't feel as neck-snappingly instantaneous as some other performance electric cars can be. There's a certain degree of feed-in order to make this feel like a much more natural experience. The steering weighting in this car also feels a little bit lighter compared to that of the combustion model. And I can't quite tell if that's by design or if that's perhaps by a setting, because I can't really find the time to try and go through all the settings of this car. Now, we're on a spotting lap now, which is why I'm a little bit more relaxed. But what's obvious to me is you can tell that there is an additional 200 or 330, 350 kilograms on this car. It is very obvious from the get-go. But what I want to figure out now is if this car maintains the same sort of dynamism that we saw from the JCW range now that it's gotten a bit heavier and a little bit more electric. So leaving a nice big gap. Okay, this car is slightly more prone to understeer, no doubt as a result of the weight, but it does seem to manage itself, quite well. So with the electric, that weight does come with some kind of penalty. You can feel that when you push this car to its absolute limits, it is going to want to push wide a little bit more earnestly. And so there is, I think, something worth paying attention to if you are looking at a Mini as an out sports car or track day fun toy. But for an electric hatchback, I will say that this is surprisingly pliant. But the electric powertrain doesn't seem to have the same sort of polish when it comes to the traction control, because obviously we're not allowed to turn traction control off on this track, but it just doesn't feel like the electric powertrain is adapting well enough or fast enough rather, in order to keep everything in check. It feels like a lot more of that is dependent on the driver, i.e. me, and so if you're not at 10/10 when you drive this, you may find yourself in a hairy situation quite quickly. But I think that for those who are really into electric mobility, you will find that this is a very, very fun car to drive. Unlike a lot of other EVs that tout their 0 to 100 times as some sort of performance credential, this electric JCW instead prefers to show off its dynamic chops by allowing itself to rather showing off its engineering prowess. For example, the torsional rigidity in this car is fantastic. The suspension has also been set up in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's struggling under the weight. Instead, everything just feels very well managed, very reasonable. It feels very well put together. It feels mercifully, like a Mini JCW. This is exactly the experience that we wanted to see from this car. The moment Mini announced the fact that they were going to apply the JCW treatment to the Mini, I think a lot of us ended up asking whether or not this car would be faithful enough to the JCW nameplate. And I can say with a degree of confidence that this car does indeed do that. It's just, this car it is a lot of fun, but it's just that perhaps I got the order wrong. Maybe I should have driven the electric one first. Because while this car is good, I can't help but run away from the fact that as a driving tool, the petrol-powered one is slightly more fun. Oh well. But what I do want to see from these cars is whether or not they'll be just as fun later. When we take them out on the road, when we actually use them as cars, will they still be as convincing? Will they still be as engaging and dynamic out on the road? And more importantly, will it come with a degree of compromise? I think that's the question we need to answer. So now we are in the Mini Aceman JCW. As I mentioned earlier, the JCW lineup is now composed of the entire Mini family. So there is a JCW for everyone. Now, obviously, if you watch our review of the Aceman, we have said that this car is sort of a nice balance between the frenetic Mini 3-door and the slightly more relaxed Mini Countryman. However, relaxed shouldn't really be the name of the game for this car, given the fact that this is a JCW. Now, unfortunately, they're not letting us go on the track, so we have to drive out on the road instead. And driving out on the road, ooh, it's got fake engine noises, and it's got even like a little run-off, blow-off kind of crackle and pop toward the end, which I think is quite amusing for an electric car. But I think that out on the road, this is kind of where it's meant to be. This is kind of where it's most comfortable, because the suspension doesn't feel nearly as busy as what we saw from the Mini 3-door, and there's no doubt that as a result of the additional weight from those battery packs, it will feel like a slightly more relaxed place to be. Now, of course, the roads out here in Gamuda Cove are incredibly well paved, which means that there is no real opportunity to feel how this car reacts through severe undulations. But I can say that this car does feel very composed, very mature. It feels the way it ought to for a car like this. Now, I'm sorry, I could amuse myself all day doing that. But I think that the Aceman JCW does feel very attentive. And you hear that little bit of a sonic boom kind of thing that comes in when your throttle pedal goes beyond a certain point. All of these things, I think, really fit into the fun and funky Mini character. And even though this is ultimately an electric car, because they've gone to such lengths to sort of build that character into the experience, I think that it does sort of carry it through quite faithfully. Between the electric and combustion Minis, there is actually a difference in terms of suspension. The electric versions, like the one that we're driving now, run a sort of mechanical adjustable damping system, which Mini says allows these cars to feel planted and connected when you're driving intently, while not compromising comfort in terms of the secondary ride. And I do think that comes through quite clearly, because going over bumps and going through potholes and stuff, this car doesn't feel unsettled at all. But more importantly, when you chuck it around a bend, especially with a little bit of speed to it, you can feel that these dampers are doing their best to manage body control quite faithfully. I'm going to leave a little bit of gap from the car in front. Oh, it does take off quite well. And in doing so, in terms of power delivery, it also feels very linear, like there's a build up to the torque rather than just dumping it on you in one go. And so I think that this all feeds into a very Mini-like experience, albeit a Mini for the modern age. As a brand, I think Mini's really benefited from this electrified future, and it's quite clear that the performance on offer in this car is exactly what you want from something bearing the JCW badge. So, you know what? Judging from this experience, I can say with a degree of certainty that the John Cooper Works experience has translated very, very well into the latest generation of Mini models. And I think that anyone looking to add a little bit of fun to their lives will enjoy this experience from the new JCW models very, very much indeed. So after having driven the Mini John Cooper Works family, both on the track and on the road, what's very clear to us is that the JCW experience has been translated faithfully into the very latest generation of Mini cars. Now, if you would like to experience this for yourself, MINI is conducting an open experience for their MINI customers as well as for members of the public happening here at Gamuda Cove over the weekend. So if you have the time and you're looking for something to do, be sure to check this out because I can guarantee that you will not have any more fun behind the wheel. In any case, that concludes our coverage of the MINI track day here at Gamuda Cove. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon to be notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. All the links are in the description below, including the link to join our new WhatsApp channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care, stay safe and always have fun.